Hello, 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 everybody. As we are letting everybody in, it's so nice to see everybody just excited and smiling faces, even if it's pictures of smiling faces, joining us today as we are coming together for another exciting day with the amazing Pharmacist Ben, Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca. And welcome. Welcome, Sherry Ann and Vaughn and Jacqueline. And I don't know whose dad that is, but I'm excited to have Dad here with us. And Pamela, welcome everybody. My name is Becca Dukes, and I am joined with my co-hosts, Ruth Ellen Sanchez and Dr. Judy Reynolds. If you're on live with us, make sure that you turn that chat on so you can keep up with the bit of information that is going to be shared in the chat. But most of all, if you would like to ask a question, raise your hand, because after Pharmacist Ben shares with us a little about two different subjects today, then he's going to take a couple questions in this hour. So without further ado, if you do not know who Pharmacist Ben is, you've been missing out. So we are so excited and honored to be able to have somebody who has gone through pharmacy school, who has figured out that, hey, our bodies are not chemical deficient. Let's try some nutrition and see how the body reacts. And he found that it reacted really well. And that really started off his journey into where he is now, which I think is absolutely fabulous to be associated with Pharmacist Ben, because he has so much knowledge and he shares it in a way that's easy to understand. So Pharmacist Ben, welcome to Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca.
Hey, Becca and everybody else out there in Zoom land. Nice to see you guys. Another month has gone by, Becca. Hard to believe. Summertime almost over. Crazy.
You know, it really is hard to believe.
Yeah.
That it's been a month since we were here.
When was I out in Arizona? It seems like that was almost a year ago, wasn't it?
It feels like a year ago, but that was 5 months ago.
When I was in Arizona?
That was in April.
Just April. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the lymphatic system first, okay? So the lymphatic system is like it's kind of like a transparent system. We never really talk about the lymphatic system, but rest assured, if you have a chronic health challenge, you have a lymphatic issue. If you have any health challenge that's not acute, you probably have something going on with your lymph. If you have a digestive health issue, you probably have something going on in your lymph. And it's unfortunate we don't really pay attention to the lymphatic system, because really disease, while we talk about the blood as being a source of disease, the lymphatic system, which runs parallel to the bloodstream, is also intimately involved with the disease process. So what exactly is the lymph? We hear this word all the time. The lymph is the fluid that runs through the lymphatic vessels. The lymphatic vessels are like a circulatory system that runs parallel to the blood vessels. When your heart pumps blood, the heart will pump the blood, and it goes in a big circle. It goes downward towards the bottom of your body, and then it makes a big circle upwards to the top of your body. And in between this downward flow and this upward flow, the blood is leaking out of small, microscopically small capillaries going into the cells. And at that point, the fluid that is bathing the cells is taken up by the lymphatic system. And the number one, or the first role, not the number one role, but the first role of the lymphatic system is to take up the fluids that have leaked out of the bloodstream and bring them back up into the heart. The second role of the lymphatic system is to transport fats and fatty nutrients, fatty vitamins, essential fatty acids, fats in general. And this all occurs at the level of the digestive system. And there's a large complex of lymphatic vessels in the digestive system, in the intestine specifically. When you eat foods, the foods go through your digestive, through your stomach, and they go into your intestine. And everything but the fats goes through the intestine into the bloodstream. The fats, however, are too big to get into the bloodstream. And instead of going into the bloodstream, the fats go into the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system carries all the fats we eat, for better or worse, meaning if we're eating lousy fats, those lousy fats go into the lymphatic system. And if we're eating good fats, those good fats go into the lymphatic system. The reason this is so important is because the lymphatic system the lymphatic vessels that carry the fats out of the intestine travel upwards up the body, and they go into the circulatory system at the level of the heart. And if you're eating crappy fats, those crappy fats are going to go directly into the bloodstream through the heart. They'll ultimately make it into the liver. The fats don't get processed the way other digestive substances do. In other words, fats go right into the bloodstream by the action of the lymph. And the third element of the lymph, the third role of the lymph, is to function as a part of the immune system. The cells of the lymph, or there are cells in the lymph called lymphocytes, site meaning cells, lymph cells, and these lymphocytes are also known as white blood cells, and they're a part of the immune system. And that's why when you go to the doctor, you have a cold, they'll check right along here where you have a concentration of lymph called your lymph nodes. In fact, you have lymph nodes scattered throughout your body. There's hundreds of lymph nodes, mostly concentrated in the neck area. In fact, about a third of your lymph nodes are concentrated in your neck area, as well as in parts of the body where you have connections made. So the neck is where the head meets the shoulders. That's a connection point. Your arms are a connection point, and you have lymph nodes in your arms. Your legs are a connection point. Your knees are a connection point. All these connection points represent concentrations of lymph. You also have organs that concentrate lymph: the thymus, the spleen. There's a complex of lymphatic nodes in the digestive system, the intestine, called Peyer's patches. And the most famous of the lymph organs that nobody talks about as being lymph organs are the tonsils. And it's really interesting how tonsillectomies are pretty much the most important surgery a child is going to have. They just remove the tonsils, but nobody thinks about asking why the tonsils are so inflamed that they have to be removed. Well, if you understand that the tonsils are part of the immune system, they're the lymphatic representation of the immune system, or one of the lymphatic representations of the immune system, you'll realize that the reason why kids have inflamed tonsils is because their lymph is so clogged from the kinds of foods that they're eating, especially dairy. In fact, one of the big problems that children have, in addition to having inflamed tonsils and adenoids, is ear infections, and ear infections can also be a sign of lymphatic congestion. And this idea of lymphatic congestion is the end result of the wrong things getting into the lymphatic system, usually through digestion. You can tell you have this condition of lymphatic congestion if you're dealing with headaches, brain fog, swollen nodes, certainly chronic pain, chronic fatigue, mucus, fluid backup in the ears, ear infections, ear popping, and tinnitus can be signs of lymphatic congestion. Also boils and cysts and skin diseases. Cystic acne is the end result of lymphatic congestion. There's a lot of lymph vessels located in the lower levels of the skin. This can be very frustrating to deal with, because when we see the skin, when we see the appearance of boils or cysts or infections on the skin, the tendency is to want to treat it from the top down. You can't really do that if you're trying to address a lymphatic condition. The only way to really address a lymphatic condition is with internal strategies, and there's quite a few of them. One of the most important things you could do oh, by the way, bad breath can also be a sign of lymphatic congestion. And then the main ways that lymphatic toxicity is handled by the body is through excretion, through bowel movements, and through the urine, also through sweat, and also through the breath. And this is why bad breath can be a sign of lymphatic issues, particularly at the level of the intestine. There's things you could do if you're dealing with lymphatic congestion. One of the most important and one of the most helpful is something called lymphatic massage. And there are massage therapists who could do lymphatic massage, or you could actually do your own lymphatic massage by patting the areas where you have lymph concentrations, like in your neck, like in the upper part of your chest, like in the arms and where the legs meet the groin area, and also in the knees, and also the belly. Patting the belly, patting all of these areas where you have lymph can help stimulate movement of the lymphatic system. Interestingly, the lymph doesn't have a pump. Even though it's part of the bloodstream, it does a part of the circulatory system. It doesn't have a pump the way the heart has a pump. So the lymphatic system depends on us moving in order for it to be able to move. It depends on our movement for its movement. This is one of the reasons why you'll hear people say that their grandparents used to eat bacon and smoke cigarettes and didn't really pay attention to their health, but they lived to be 90 years old. What they don't tell you is that their grandparents were walking and they were working and they were chopping wood and they were moving their bodies. Today's sedentary lifestyle is the worst enemy of the lymph and one of the main reasons why people deal with lymphatic diseases as well as lymphatic congestion. So in addition to lymphatic massage and even padding, you do your own lymphatic massage, you can improve lymphatic drainage by exercise, by movement, by getting up and down on a rebounder. If you feel like you're coming down with a cold, for example, you can almost perceive lymphatic congestion associated with a cold. And one of the things that the common colds can cause is lymphatic clogging. That's why the doctor will feel along the lymph nodes to see if you're sick or if you have some kind of infection. If you feel that kind of sluggishness coming along and you kind of have a perception that a cold is coming up, jumping up and down on a rebounder can help either speed up healing or even eliminate the appearance of a cold, a viral infection, or a bacterial infection. Jumping up and down on a rebounder. Also, slow, deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, where you move the diaphragm up and down. In fact, moving the diaphragm, slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing not only can help the lymph, it can also help the blood. And for anybody who's dealing with congestive heart failure or who wants to improve blood circulation, as well as improving lymphatic circulation, practicing slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing can be very helpful. The diaphragm is like a pump. It's almost like a second heart in terms of its pumping action. Drinking water is another way that you can dilute the lymph and improve its movement. Dry brushing has been used for centuries, really, to help improve lymphatic movement. And by the way, when you're dry brushing or when you're doing any kind of lymphatic massage, you always want to move towards the heart. The lymph system moves towards the heart. And when you're doing your dry brushing, you're trying to improve lymphatic movement, you want to do your dry brushing or lymphatic massage in a motion that is towards the heart, this way, or upwards from the bottom of your body. Also, hot and cold showers, or hot and cold plunges, I should say, or hot and cold water in the shower can have a sort of accordion effect, an opening and squeezing effect on lymphatic vessels. If you're up for doing cold plunges, that can be great. Hot water and then cold plunges, and then back to hot water and then back to cold plunges. Or you can do it in the shower. You can turn the hot water on, and the cold water on, the hot water on, and the cold water on. And that's been used for eons as a way, even though they don't really talk about it as a way of improving the lymph. That can be used to improve the lymph as well. And then there's nutrients that you could use. The most important nutrients for folks who are dealing with lymphatic issues are going to be your fatty nutrients. That's because the lymph system carries fatty nutrients. It carries vitamin E. It carries essential fatty acids. It carries quality fats. And when the lymph gets clogged, when lymphatic movement is compromised, your ability to deliver fatty nutrients to the cells is also going to be compromised. So using fatty nutrients fatty nutrient supplements, vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, the minerals zinc and selenium, in addition to essential fatty acids, can counteract some of that sluggish delivery of nutrients, pounding in the fatty nutrients. So the lymphatic system, just to sum up here, the lymphatic system runs parallel to the bloodstream, to the blood system. It's part of the circulatory system. You actually have 3 times as much lymphatic fluid as you have blood. The lymphatic system performs 3 major functions. The first function is to carry excess fluid that has been released from the capillaries towards the cells. Secondly, to transport fats and fatty hormones. And third, to act as a part of the immune system. Pretty much all health challenges, all chronic health challenges are going to involve some kind of lymphatic congestion, but you can rest assured that if you have a digestive problem, you also are going to have a lymphatic problem as well. There's lots of signs that you're dealing with a lymphatic issue. We always talk about inflammation as being a cardinal sign of the disease process. If you have inflammation, you're pretty much guaranteed you also have a lymphatic congestion issue. Some of the major signs of a lymphatic issue are chronic pain, chronic fatigue, stiffness, especially stiffness in the morning when you haven't been moving, tinnitus, fluid accumulation in your ears, fluid accumulation in the bottom of your body, so-called lymphedema, immune problems, chronic infections, ear infections in children, sore throats, mucus accumulation. All of these are signs that you have a lymphatic issue. The best thing you could do to keep the lymph system moving is to breathe, to move, jump up and down on a rebounder, exercise, take walks, and of course, don't introduce toxins into your body. Don't introduce, stop eating processed food, stop eating lots of sugar, don't eat inflammatory foods. Pretty much all the things we know we have to do to keep ourselves healthy, keep us healthy because they improve lymphatic function. And don't underestimate the importance of lymphatic massage. Most massage therapists can do lymphatic massage, or as I say, you can do it yourself. And dry brushing can be kind of a form of lymphatic massage. And always dry brush or massage. If you're going to do lymphatic massage or dry brush, you always want to do it towards the heart, up from the lower part of your body upwards, down from the upper part of your body towards the heart, and from your arms towards upwards towards the heart. All right, so the second thing we want to talk about is the eyes.
Wait, before you move on, I have this really cool picture that I found that I'd like to share that I think will help people understand how the lymphatic system follows, like what Ben was saying.
That's excellent. So yeah, if you go down to the bottom, go to the intestine part or where your stomach is. I don't know if they have concentration there.
That's the bottom of that particular picture.
That's the bottom of the picture. Okay, yeah, that's the lymphatic system, and you can look at the neck. Take it up to the neck there. There you go. You see that? Those are the lymph nodes. Can you pull up a little more, or is that the top of it?
That's as high as that one goes.
Yeah, I should also tell you, there's a lot of skin conditions that involve lymphatic congestion in addition to the boils and cysts that I talked about. The lymph system, you can't see it on this you can't see it on this picture, but there's a band of lymph right through the middle of your face from where your cheeks are, from your left cheek to your right cheek. If you draw, can you draw an arrow, like point that cursor from the left cheek to the right cheek above, I guess it's the top of the picture, so you can't really do that. But that's where rosacea will appear. And that's where a type of acne will appear that unfortunately, or a type of acne-like skin disease will appear that people sometimes confuse with ordinary acne, but which is really a lymphatic issue. And this is where the food relationship to skin comes in. When you're eating the wrong foods, those wrong foods can enter into the digestive system at the level of the intestine, and they end up traveling through the lymphatic system to the middle part of your face. And that can be a very frustrating form of acne because dermatologists to this day don't recognize those kinds of lesions as being related to the lymph. And it's very unfortunate because you'll have people who are treated with topical treatments like retinoids or benzoyl peroxide, or they'll do skin peels with alpha hydroxy acids, when in reality, they've got a lymphatic condition, which can be shown by the concentration of lymph that's in the middle of your face, right in the middle. So that's another interesting thing for folks who are dealing with skin conditions. That middle part of your face is a concentration of lymph. All right, so you want to talk about the eyes now?
Yes, let's go into the eyes.
Okay, so there's two major aspects to eye health, and that is the muscles that control the eyes and the tiny little muscles and the connective tissue inside the eyes, and then the part of the eyes that's responsive to light. And understanding that distinction is going to be important for treating eye issues. So for example, macular degeneration and cataracts are diseases that affect the part of the eye that's affected by light. Glaucoma is a disease that affects the muscles and the connective tissue inside the eyes. Also, nearsightedness and farsightedness affect the musculature of the eyes. To treat the musculature and the connective tissue in the eyes, you got to do what you do for any part of any connective tissue or muscular part of the body, and that is basically building up the core of the body, what I call the flesh robot. And we've talked about this before. If you remember the body's exhibit, where they peel off the skin and they just show you the central part of the body, I call that part of the body the flesh robot. That's the combination of the connective tissue and the muscle tissue that make up most of our bodies. Almost all of the signs of aging, and I would pretty much say all the signs of aging that we hate, the arthritis and the osteoporosis and the back problems and the chronic pain and the visible signs of the facial signs of skin aging, the wrinkles and the fine lines, all the things we really hate about the aging process are related to deterioration of this connective tissue muscle tissue complex, i.e. the flesh robot. Well, likewise, glaucoma and nearsightedness and farsightedness issues are issues with this flesh robot, the connective tissue and muscle tissue complex. And the way you address these is by building the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. The muscle tissue you can build by exercise, and exercise is going to be important for all the muscle tissue, including the muscle tissue of the eyes. And there are literally eye exercises that you can do that can help prevent or even reduce the acceleration of both nearsightedness and farsightedness. Also, sugar attacks the connective tissue and the muscle tissue in a process called glycation, and eating lots of sugar can be a wonderful way to assure that your connective tissue, muscle tissue deteriorate all over your body and including in your eyes. So staying away from sugar and other inflammatory foods as well, although sugar is the most common inflammatory food that we ingest. And then also building the connective tissue with nutritional supplements. And that's one of the, before Dr. Wallach was known as the mineral doctor, he was the pig pack doctor. And the pig pack, I think the pig pack was probably his, after the colloidal minerals, the pig pack was his second product. And that is what really got my attention as a pharmacist when I first heard the Dead Doctors Don't Lie tape, was his understanding, Dr. Wallach's understanding of the importance of using cartilage and eating connective tissue, eating cartilage and eating connective tissue to build connective tissue and to build cartilage, which is kind of neat. That means by eating cartilage on bones, or from bones, we can improve our cartilage. Cartilage is a very important part of connective tissue. In other words, eating connective tissue builds your connective tissue. The pig pack is a great way to do it if you're going to do nutritional supplements. I've been talking about bone broth and bone broth protein or bone broth and chicken broth and bone broth protein for years. That's also a strategy that you can use to build your connective tissue. Collagen peptides, and we have a great collagen peptide product that can be helpful for building connective tissue. And again, this is not just for the connective tissue in the flesh robot in the central part of the body, but also in the eye area too. So collagen peptides, using the pig pack, using cofactors that help your body make collagen. One of the most important, in fact, the most important cofactor for helping your body make connective tissue. And when I say connective tissue, I'm using that term synonymously with collagen, collagen being the most prominent protein in connective tissue. Vitamin C, you can't make connective tissue, you can't make collagen without vitamin C. And unless you're supplementing with vitamin C, the chances are pretty good you're underdosing yourself in vitamin C. You're not giving your body enough vitamin C, because most of us get our vitamin C based on multiple vitamins and the recommended daily allowance. The recommended daily allowance, if you use the recommended daily allowance to determine how much vitamin C you need, chances are really good you're not getting enough vitamin C. Vitamin C is hard to get in foods because of processing, unless you're eating lots of fresh fruits. And vitamin C is basically found in fruits and vegetables, but you got to eat a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables fresh. It's not really going to be found in juices like orange juice, for example, and certainly not processed fruits and vegetables. So the best way to make sure you're getting your vitamin C is to use nutritional supplements, especially the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. In fact, one of the most important, possibly the most important active nutritional ingredient in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is the vitamin C, which you get 1,000 milligrams of in a daily dose of Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Building connective tissue, if you're interested in building connective tissue using collagen and using the pig pack and using connective tissue foods, connective tissue rich foods like bone broth, isn't going to happen if you don't have vitamin C. So vitamin C goes together with the collagen peptides, goes together with the pig pack, goes together with your bone broth if you're trying to use those substances to build connective tissue and build collagen. And while I'm on the subject, of course, glucosamine and the glucogel caps are raw materials for helping the body build connective tissue and build collagen. So always include your glucogel caps, which are, I think they're part of the pig pack, but if they're not, the glucogel caps can be a lifesaver for folks who are dealing with connective tissue health issues, including eye problems associated with connective tissue deterioration. Magnesium is also helpful for building connective tissue, and copper is also extremely important. Probably the most important mineral when it comes to building connective tissue is copper. So making sure that you're getting enough copper. When you're taking copper, if you are taking copper for whatever reason to build connective tissue, you always want to take it with zinc. Zinc and copper go together, and maybe 2 to 4 milligrams of copper should always be matched up with 50 milligrams of zinc. Then there's the part of the eye that is responsive to light. And that's a second form of eye health challenges that are separate from the eye health challenges that are linked to the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. And these are things like macular degeneration and cataracts. Actually, cataracts, in addition to being, well, both macular degeneration and cataracts can be caused by the same kind of glycation reaction that affects the connective tissue. And laying off of sugar, again, is going to be able to help, just like it helps you with connective tissue and muscle issues associated with eye disease, will also help you with macular degeneration and cataracts. Once a cataract forms, you're not going to be able to reverse the cataract. So you want to prevent the cataract from forming. And if there's any reason to lay off the sugar and the processed food and to get on nutritional supplements, one of the best is to prevent cataracts. That's an absolutely hideous thing that can happen. I have a lot of friends who are dealing with cataract problems now, and they're always looking for ways to reverse the cataracts. I don't know of any ways to reverse the cataracts any more than you can reverse a crack that appears in your windshield, and that's essentially what a cataract is. A cataract is a defect in the lens of your eye, much the same way as a crack appears on the glass of your windshield in your car. The trick is to prevent cataracts, and the best way to prevent cataracts is by using anti-diabetic strategies. That is, things like sweeties and the ultimate niacin, the ultimate selenium, magnesium, which has an anti-glycation or anti-sugaring effect. And also using connective tissue building supplements can help you with anti-glycation, especially something called hyaluronic acid, which has anti-glycating effects. You'll find hyaluronic acid in bone broth, or you can also use it as a supplement. And then there's also the degeneration that happens in the macula, i.e. macular degeneration. Sometimes you'll hear people talking about wet macular degeneration and dry macular degeneration. Those are distinctions that are really irrelevant when it comes to protecting the eyes. The best way to protect the macula is to use pigments, reds and oranges and greens and yellows that are found in fruits and vegetables. And that's in the peels of fruits and in vegetables as well. The main distinction, by the way, between fruits and vegetables is peels and seeds. Vegetables don't have peels and vegetables don't have seeds. Fruits have peels and seeds, and the pigments tend to be located in fruits in the peel. In vegetables, they're spread out throughout the vegetable, obviously. However, there's a little trick in the sense that the pigments are locked in place in the vegetable. They're locked in place in the peels of the fruits. They don't come out in the digestive system very readily. That in order to get the pigments out of these fruits and vegetables, your fat metabolizing system, the part of your body, the part of your digestive system that processes fats, the bile, the pancreatic enzymes, the liver, stomach acid, all of these have to be working appropriately in order to release the fats, the pigments from the fatty section of the vegetable or of the peel of your fruit. For many of us, especially if you had a gallbladder removed, or if you have liver disease, you have intestinal problems, we don't really process our fats as effectively. So helping your body process those pigments and the fats from your vegetables and from your peels can be very helpful. One thing you can do is you can juice, and that will release some of those pigments and make it easier for your body to digest, to process these pigments. You can also braise your vegetables in butter. The butter will release those pigments and release the fats. And then, or you could even put butter on top of your fats or top of your fruits and vegetables in order to help release those fats and make it easier in your digestive system to get access to those pigments. Or you can also and you should also use, of course, your ultimate enzymes and perhaps a little bit of apple cider vinegar with your ultimate enzymes to help the body process those fats. Dr. Wallach calls the ultimate enzymes a gallbladder in a bottle, and he's right. There are nutrients in the ultimate enzymes, particularly bile and bile salts, that help support your natural bile if your gallbladder is functioning healthfully, or that can replace the bile if you don't have a gallbladder. You're always going to make, I consider bile to be probably the most underappreciated fluid in the body. You're always going to make some bile because the bile is made in the liver. But if you have a gallbladder, you don't have a way of hanging on to that bile. The gallbladder is a bladder. Bladder means bag, and gall means bile. The gallbladder is a bag of bile. It holds on to bile. It stores bile. So when you eat your fatty foods, a big blast of bile will get squirted onto that food as it leaves your stomach and enters into your intestine. And that's supposed to be how fats get released from foods. And when you think of fats, think of pigments. That's how pigments get released from foods and enter into the intestine. If you don't have a gallbladder, if your gallbladder is not functioning as well as it should, or if you have liver disease and you're not making bile, you can support all of that with your digestive enzyme, with your ultimate enzymes. And when you're taking your ultimate enzymes, you always want to use something acidic with those ultimate enzymes. There is a little bit of acid in the ultimate enzymes, but you'll help improve the functioning of the enzymes if you use something acidic with the ultimate enzymes, like noni juice or aloe vera juice or apple cider vinegar, or even lemon juice or lime juice or some kind of citrus, fruit citrus juice to activate the enzymes. You can also use, there are also electrical nutrients that are important. And by the way, if you've heard of the terms lutein and zeaxanthin, these are chemical terms, chemical names for the pigments. Lutein is a yellow pigment, carotenes are red pigments, xanthines are yellow and red pigments. All of these pigments have chemical names, and you'll see those chemical names in your Vision FX and in your Ocuvite or Ocutive eye vitamins, which are just other names for the pigments. Those are the chemical names for the pigments. There are also electrical nutrients that you can use. One of the things, and this should be obvious, the eyes are subject to lots of electrical energy. We call that electrical energy ultraviolet radiation from the sun, but essentially it's electricity. And that electricity hits the eyes, and it's very important that your body has enough electrically active nutrients to dampen that electrical energy that's hitting the eyes. Without those nutrients, you run the risk of burning the eyes, much like you run the risk of burning the eyes without the pigments. This is why people need sunglasses. This is why people have eyes that are sensitive to the sun, because they're not getting enough pigments and they're not getting enough electrically active nutrients. These electrically active nutrients are things like taurine and tryptophan and selenium and N-acetylcysteine and zinc and vitamin E, all of which you'll find in Vision FX and in Ocutive. And essentially, the Ocutive and the Vision FX are electrical dampening nutrients. They're nutrients that sort of suck up that ultraviolet electrical energy that's coming in from the sun, the way a sponge sucks up water. And that's why you want to, number one, make sure that you're using these nutritional supplements to protect your eyes, but also using these nutritional supplements, the Vision FX and the Ocutive and all these individual nutrients that we just talked about, for protecting your skin from the sun. And it turns out that the same nutrients that protect your eyes from the sun will protect your skin from the sun. And that's a little, I know we've talked about this before, but that's a hack that you can use to prevent your skin from burning or to prevent photoaging if you're out in the sun. The nature designed our skin and our eyes to be protected from the sun, not by using topical products, but by internal nutrition. And it turns out that internal nutrition that you use for your eyes will also help your skin and protect your skin from the sun as well. So the two aspects to protecting to keeping your eyes healthy: number one, working on the connective tissue and the muscle tissue. You do that the same way as you work on the connective tissue and the muscle tissue, which we should all be doing, because connective tissue and muscle tissue not only are important for the eyes, they're also important for the flesh robot. They're also important for the heart and for the vascular system, and sometimes and the lymph, for that matter. The lymphatic vessels in the heart and the blood vessels all are dependent on healthy connective tissue for healthy functioning. So when you're using these connective tissue building strategies, you're also going to be building your heart and your vascular system and your lymphatic system, as well as your eyes, as well as the connective and muscle tissue in the eyes. And then the second aspect is protecting the part of the eyes that are responsive to electrical energy from the sun, and that is using electrically active nutrients like zinc and vitamin C and vitamin E and N-acetylcysteine and sulfur and selenium, as well as the pigments, all of the color pigments, even if they have different names or chemical names like lutein and zeaxanthin and carotene. They're really just the pigments that are found in fruits and vegetables. You can do it in supplements. You can also do it by eating fruits and vegetables, but make sure that your digestive system is healthy enough to be able to process fats, and you can support the fat processing by using digestive enzymes with your meals, your ultimate enzymes with your meals, as well as something acidic that goes with your ultimate enzymes. And then I'll just say, last but not least, the microbiome in the intestine is also very important for helping the body process fat. So making sure that you're using things like your daily digest, as well as the nightly essence, and perhaps eating fermented foods to support the health of the microbiome. That can also help you process fats, help you absorb and process fats, and get them into the circulatory system at the level of the intestine, get them into the lymph at the level of the intestine. All right, does that make sense, you guys?
Wow. I love being out in the sun, Ben. In fact, I spent an hour and a half this morning out in the outside. I'm going to say outside because I was in the shade. So I'm going to double up on what I'm taking for my eyes to help protect my skin as well.
Yes. Isn't that interesting?
That's awesome. I love having that new information, and I'm going to try it out. I have a question. Connective tissue.
Yes, ma'am.
Connective tissue builds connective tissue. How about those who are vegan or vegetarian?
It's a little harder for vegan and vegetarians because there's no connective tissue in vegetables. Connective tissue is only found in animals. There's something that we can eat. There's a living creature, something that we can eat that is a cross between an animal and a vegetable. And this living creature that we should all be eating, that's a cross between an animal, especially if you're a vegetarian or vegan, but all of us can benefit from it. It's a cross between an animal and a vegetable, has lots of good stuff in it that you don't find in, that vegetarians aren't going to be able to get ordinarily, because they're only found in animal foods. Things like vitamin A and vitamin D, probably even vitamin K, and some of these building blocks of collagen. You know what that food is? That substance is, that living creature is?
I'm like sitting on the edge of my chair waiting for you to tell us. Because no, I don't.
Fungi.
Oh, fungi.
Between animals and plants. And so for vegetarians, they're a wonderful way to get nutrients that are only found in animals because they're kind of like an animal plant. They're a plant animal. So for there are nutrients that vegetarians are going to have a problem with, like vitamin A, like vitamin D, like high hyaluronic acid and certain saccharides, certain building blocks of glucosamine, certain building blocks of collagen, but you can get them from mushrooms.
I was going to say, are you referring to mushrooms? Because when I think fungus, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yes, edible fungus. Mushrooms are part of the fungal kingdom. Mushrooms are the fruit of the fungal kingdom. So the fungal kingdom is really very interesting. And anyone's interested in fungus, there's a really cool movie called Fantastic Fungi that really goes through in great depth and with great graphics and visuals on how the fungal kingdom works. You could think of mushrooms as the fruit of a fungal tree, which is basically just a wire called a rhizome that lives under, or mycelium that lives underneath the soil. And the fruit of that mycelium is the mushroom. Of course, mushrooms are also poisonous. So you got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
A lot of times things that are poisonous are also medicinal. And in Chinese medicine, mushrooms are revered as being immune boosters, blood builders, anti-cancer, and they're powerfully medicinal.
Yeah, because you have the shiitake and the reishi and.
Yes, they're incredibly medicinal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like a battle between fungus and bacteria in the world, and we get a lot of antibacterials or antibiotics from funguses. Penicillin comes from a fungus.
Right. Awesome. Well, okay, also relating to connective tissue, I know Jill has a question. I don't know if she was able to raise her hand or not, but she wants to know about carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel is definitely a connective tissue issue.
Is carpal tunnel and is it Dupuytren's disease?
Dupuytren's contracture is also a tissue problem. That's where your hands kind of curl up like this. And you want to think about connective tissue issues and digestive issues associated with them. There's a link between digestive issues and Dupuytren's contracture. And people who drink a lot of alcohol also or smoke cigarettes are more likely to get Dupuytren's contracture. These are connective tissue health issues, and they want to be addressed as such. There's also, I don't want to get too graphic here, but there's also a disease everybody's talking about. There's a lot of commercials on now for this thing called Peyronie's disease. Have you heard of that?
I've heard about Peyronie's disease.
Years ago, you never heard of it, but now they want you to take drugs for Peyronie's disease, and they have a hard time talking about it, so they'll show you a banana. Have you seen this? Just a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's something that affects men.
Something that affects men. That's like Dupuytren's contracture of the male organ. It's like a bend that occurs, and the Dupuytren's contracture is like that too. And carpal tunnel for that along the same lines is also a form of connective tissue deterioration. The body's connective tissue breaks down as we age. The body's connective tissues breakdown is accelerated by toxicity and nutritional deficiency. So you can go a long way towards slowing down the connective tissue deterioration of the body by doing things that build up the connective tissue, like supplementing, like avoiding sugar and avoiding processed foods, like exercising, like all of the things we know we're supposed to be doing. All of the things that we know we're supposed to be doing to stay healthy really work by virtue of the fact that they help the body build connective tissue. In fact, all of the diseases that are associated with aging, including heart disease and kidney disease and eye disease and muscular diseases and joint diseases, these are all connective tissue issues. So building connective tissue is the sine qua non. Sine qua non meaning that without which nothing happens. Sine qua non. It's the very essence of anti-aging, building the connective tissue. If you want to focus on one thing, one part of the body to stay young, to stay healthy, to prevent all the cosmetic as well as health issues that are associated with the aging process, it's building the connective tissue. There are collectively, Americans spend billions of dollars every year trying to go the medical route to build connective tissue or to use medications and surgeries to repair issues that are really nothing more than the signs of connective tissue deterioration. Even heart disease is a connective tissue problem. The heart sits on a framework of connective tissue. The blood vessels are held intact, are strengthened, and their shape is maintained. Their vessel-like shape is maintained by connective tissue. So when we think of connective tissue, we sometimes just think of this, like I call it the flesh robot, but it's important to understand that almost every single system in the body and organ in the body and tissue in the body is strengthened and given its shape and functionality by virtue of the connective tissue. So if you want to really hone in, health is this really kind of vast subject and confusing subject. If you really want to simplify things, build the connective tissue, strengthen the connective tissue, keep the connective tissue in a constant state of growth and repair.
And you had mentioned the heart, the valves.
That's
They're
all.
made of connective tissue.
Mitral valve prolapses. Any kind of prolapse is a connective tissue issue. People say they have mitral valve prolapse, are going to have surgery to repair the valve and this and that. Build the connective tissue or avoid the things that help the body deteriorate the connective tissue. Anytime you hear the word prolapse, you've got a connective tissue problem. Anytime you hear the word rupture, you got a connective tissue problem. Anytime you hear the word hernia, you got a connective tissue problem. And don't underestimate the impact of sugar on deteriorating connective tissue. And don't underestimate the impact of stress hormone, cortisol, elevated cortisol, chronically high cortisol. That can also have a deteriorating or a negative effect on connective tissue. So you can see why we're collectively as a culture falling apart. It's because we're doing all these things that deteriorate our connective tissue, and we're not doing the things that build up our connective tissue. It's all about the connective tissue. And it's even more fascinating. I know we're running out of time, but it's even more fascinating than that. The connective tissue is electrical. It stores information. It's like a computer. And this is how acupuncture works. Acupuncture works by changing the electrical nature of the connective tissue. The connective tissue is an electrical system that carries electrical energy throughout the body. So there's a whole information processing mechanism that's associated with the connective tissue. And as the connective tissue deteriorates, our body doesn't process biochemical information and electrical information as effectively. Our computer, you can think of the connective tissue as the connective tissue network as a vast computer chip. And as the connective tissue deteriorates, it's akin to a computer chip deteriorating. You can imagine what that will do to your computer if your computer chips are melting and your computer chips aren't conducting electrons efficiently and effectively, that's the same thing that happens when your connective tissue deteriorates. So not only is the connective tissue important for the structure of the body, it's also important for the conduction of electrical energy. That's how acupuncture works, as I said.
Wow, that's awesome.
Cool.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm learning a lot.
Well,
Lot. So Tanya has a client that's on a beta blocker and a receptor blocker.
I don't know what you mean by receptor blocker. A beta blocker is a receptor blocker, but
Okay.
Beta blocker blocks the beta nervous system that runs into the heart. And the thinking is, the logic is that when you have heart disease, we want to stop, but we want to slow down the heart. Now, even a little common sense, just a tiny bit of common sense, will tell you, do you really want to poison your heart? Do you really want to shut down your heart? That's the logic, though. And, you know, that's just how the medical model works. Their thinking is, your heart is weak, we're going to slow it down. And so a beta blocker slows down the heart. A beta blocker also is given for high blood pressure. Again, the thinking is, if the blood pressure is too high, we're going to slow down the heart, and that will reduce the pressure. Unfortunately, again, that doesn't make any sense, because the reason your body has high blood pressure is because it's trying to get oxygen to the tissues. And for some reason, the blood isn't getting oxygen to the tissues, so the pressure's increased. Now, you counteracted the body's mechanism for getting blood to the organs, for getting oxygen to the organs, because now you've slowed everything down, you've dropped the pressure. So now the organs that were not getting oxygenated are even suffering from even a further hypoxia or low levels of oxygen. So beta blockers are horrible drugs. They're among, you know, there's a lot of horrible drugs, but they're among the worst. Calcium channel blockers, same idea. This idea of blocking electrical energy to the vascular system or to the cardiovascular system, the heart, to me as a pharmacist and just as a chemist, even just as a person, it just seems ludicrous. And anybody who's on beta blockers, no, they don't feel good when they're on beta blockers. You're tired, you're lethargic, you're depressed, you don't feel like doing anything. All of this is because your heart is being stopped, essentially. Essentially, you're poisoning your heart. And that's not being metaphorical or rhetorical or poetic. That's literally what's happening.
Yeah. And, you know, that goes right along with some of the other conditions that this gentleman has had, where he's had 2 stents placed. Again, having to do, from my experience,
blood vessels are clogged, is what's happening. So the stent opens up the blood vessels, mechanically opens up the blood vessels. So when your blood vessels are clogged, you're not getting enough oxygen, you're not getting enough blood released to the tissues, the pressure will increase. The body has a homeostatic balancing mechanism. You're not getting enough, because of the clog, you're not getting enough blood to the organs. So the heart will pump harder to increase the pressure, to get more blood to the organs. So one thing they do is they'll force open the blood vessels with a stent. It's never a good idea to force the body to do something. If you have a life-threatening situation, okay, perhaps. But as part of a long-term solution, a stent is not a long-term solution. A beta blocker is not a long-term solution. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to clean the blood vessels. And that is really a question of good lifestyle, of exercise, of breathing, of keeping toxicity out of the blood. You know, we don't think, present company excluded, I'm not talking about people on this call, but as a culture, we don't realize that what we eat is going to affect our blood. How we live our lives is going to affect our circulation. It's going to affect our circulatory system. Our lifestyle is going to affect our blood system. So if you have a blood problem, the first thing you want to do is go back to lifestyle, go back to exercise, go back to foods and diet, go back to the digestive system, go back to the lymph, because the relationship of the lymph is also important when it comes to the blood. So all the things we talk about here as part of a good, healthy lifestyle are part of a good, healthy lifestyle because they improve the body's ability to deliver nutrients, to deliver oxygen, and to remove toxicity via the circulatory system.
Thank you so much for that. I know Tanya's going to be able to use that explanation.
Somebody's on a beta blocker, start building that connective tissue and focusing on things that help improve blood circulation, especially things like chelation therapy and movement, exercise, and slow deep breathing. And also, we didn't talk about this. I touched on it with cortisol, but The stress nervous system impairs the repair process. So under conditions of chronic long-term psychological stress, as well as physiologic stress, mostly from toxicity or nutritional deficiency or lack of oxygen, the body will not repair itself as effectively, and you're going to break down faster. It's so interesting because most of the things that we suffer from in terms of chronic long-term degenerative illnesses are lifestyle based. They're how we live our lives. And there's, they're for better or worse. For better, you can do great things with the body and have a nice, long, healthy life. For worse, how we live our lives is going to ultimately and inevitably lead to the disease process, dis-ease process.
That just reinforces that empowerment that we as individuals have.
Exactly. We as individuals have. The drug companies don't want you to know that. The medical model doesn't want you to know that. I'm not talking about individual doctors now. Individual doctors, for the most part, are very good people. I'm not talking about individual doctors. I'm talking about the paradigm and the model. The medical paradigm depends on us being disempowered for its success. It depends for its financial success. It depends on us being disempowered. The pharmacomedical model needs us to be dependent on them. Again, this is not about individual doctors, or for that matter, individual pharmacists. This is about the paradigm and the model.
Right. Now, Jill has a follow-up question to the carpal tunnel. So Jill?
Yes, thanks for the great information, Ben. I really appreciated it. And some of the issues that you discussed were the person I was asking for to the T, with regards to digestion and even the hernia. So you really hit it there. But speaking of the medical model, most people who have carpal tunnel believe that they have it from repetitive use, right? Like being a builder. I can't hear you. Being a builder or using a computer, etc. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that because I'm going to share the recording. And you're muted.
Muted?
Or I can hear you. Anyways.
No, you're not muted, but it's really weird, Ben, because we have to be completely quiet for you to be heard.
Okay, I'll mute. Thank you.
So, yeah, if you don't use your hand, you probably won't get carpal tunnel syndrome. So that's true. That there's a repetitive motion aspect to it over and over and over again. But if you have strong connective tissue and strong muscle tissue, you're not going to get carpal tunnel syndrome. So if you're using your hands, yes, you're going to be more likely to have a hand problem if you're not taking care of your nutrition and your toxic. So you cannot use your hands. That's true. That's one thing. But a much healthier and a much more effective solution is to build the connective tissue. Because yes, it's true. You can't, if you don't move your hand, you don't do your repetitive motion, you're not going to have carpal tunnel syndrome. But if you don't address the connective tissue deterioration that's associated with carpal tunnel, your connective tissue is going to deteriorate in your bones. You're going to have osteoporosis. It's going to deteriorate your blood vessels, and you're going to have weak blood vessels and cholesterol deposits and possible aneurysms and stroke. It's going to deteriorate in your heart, and you'll be more prone towards arrhythmias and heart disease. It's going to deteriorate in your fascia, and you'll get hernias and prolapses. So yeah, it's true that if you're putting a stressor on the hand, that's where the carpal tunnel is coming from. But if the connective tissue and the muscle tissue are constantly being repaired, and you don't have toxins in the bloodstream that are inflaming and glycating the connective tissue, you're not going to have the carpal tunnel. So yeah, don't use your hands. That's one thing you could do. But a much healthier, a much more effective strategy is to build the connective tissue and to strengthen the connective tissue. Because once the connective tissue is weakened, it's not just weakened in your thumb or in your carpal tunnel, it's weakened everywhere. So you want to treat your carpal tunnel as a sign that the connective tissue is being deteriorated. It's breaking down. So yes, it's like this. It's like with the sun. The eyes are. You can never go out in the sun. Always wear sunglasses, and then you'll be less likely to have macular degeneration. But a more effective strategy is to protect the eyes and to build the eyes. So if you don't put any stressors in your life, you're not probably going to be less likely to have a stress-related illness like carpal tunnel. But then you're not using your hands. Your hands are meant to be used. So I don't buy that it's repetitive. That's what they want you to think. They don't want you to think it's the McDonald's and the French fries and the Snickers bar and the malnutrition and the digestive problems. They're not going to tell you that. They'll say, oh, you're just moving your hands. We don't connect the dots. So true, it is the repetitive motion. That's what's stimulating it. But Just repetitive motion alone in a healthy body isn't going to do it. If you have a healthy, strong body, it'll be able to withstand repetitive motion. Not everybody who does repetitive motion gets carpal tunnel syndrome. Does that make sense? I don't see the gal who asked the question. Where is she? Oh, she's down the bottom. Joe, not everybody who does repetitive motion gets carpal tunnel. I'm on the computer all day and I'm doing all kinds of repetitive motion. I don't have carpal tunnel. This person does. So do you understand what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, repetitive motion, automatic carpal tunnel. There are some people who will get it, and those are people who are subject to connective tissue deterioration. It takes two to tango. There's two pieces to the puzzle. Does that make sense?
Oh, let me
Hear me? I can't hear you.
try again, Jill.
Yeah, that's because I was unmuted. I mean, I was muted. Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It is exactly what I was asking. So I appreciate that. And soda is one of the offending topics that you're talking about, right? Especially soda with meals.
Well, soda is one of the worst things a human being, I don't even know how that's even okay.
I know, I want it on recording. That's why I'm asking. I know.
Is more awful for the human body than Coke or Pepsi. But if you want to put money in the stock market, put it into Coke and Pepsi, because people are not going to stop drinking Coke or Pepsi. Just put a bone in a glass of Coke and watch what happens over the course of weeks and months to the bone. It's pretty hideous. There are certain things that you wonder how it's even okay that it's part of our culture and part of our society, like Coke, like Pepsi, like French fries. But it is, and that's just the world we live in.
Unfortunately, that is the world we live in. Fortunately, you had mentioned the pig pack. That's where I started. Carpal tunnel was one of my things.
Yes.
It's like, to do this was horrible. To do this was even worse. And now, nothing. And I was looking at surgery and never did the surgery.
Exactly. You want to avoid surgery at all costs. Unless you have something life-threatening and it's an emergency and you don't have any other options, avoid it at all costs. What they don't tell you about surgery is what happens after the surgery. And 80% of people, or even more, deal with scar tissue and fibrosis and chronic pain after their surgery. And so, sometimes you need it. I understand. I've had knee surgery and I've had leg surgery when I broke my leg, and it can be very, obviously you need surgery sometimes. But if you have an option, especially like Rebecca, you said you had a nutritional option, always take that first.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, let's go to Sherry Ann real quick. Sherry Ann, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Jill.
Thank you. I have a question, but first I wanted to say thank you to Ben, because this is probably the most informative time ever, and I just wouldn't miss one of these calls, so thank you. I have a question. If you can help someone who is trying to wean off of a narcotic level prescription.
Yeah, that's a little tricky.
How do you do that safely?
Here's the thing about narcotics. When you're taking a narcotic and your body is dependent on it, and then all of a sudden you stop taking a narcotic, your body thinks it's going to die. And so you go through a little mini death. Your body goes through a mini death once you're coming off that drug. In fact, you can actually literally die. Sometimes people do die from withdrawal. So you have to treat the body very lovingly and very in a nurturing way when you're weaning. When you're weaning off of it, and you do want to wean, you don't want to quit cold turkey. You want to wean yourself off. While you're in the weaning process, it's extremely important to activate the part of the body that's associated with relaxation. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And I know if you want me to repeat this, because I hate to bore people when I keep repeating myself, but it's, repetition is reinforcement. So I'll do it anyway. You have a stress and emergency nervous system that gets you out of a jam. If there's like a lion, it sends the blood to your muscles so you can run away, and takes the blood away from your digestive system so you don't eat, and it takes it away from your thyroid and takes away from your immune system, and it puts it into all the parts of the body that get you out of the jam. That's your sympathetic nervous system. It's very important. The parasympathetic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that strengthens your immune system, that helps you grow and repair, builds connective tissue. It helps you digest your food, helps you have good bowel movements, it helps you think clearly. All the good stuff, all the fun stuff in life is in the parasympathetic division of the nervous system, and all the emergency stuff is in the sympathetic division of the nervous system. Well, when you come off of a drug, heroin or narcotic or an opiate, your sympathetic nervous system is jacked up. And all of the signs of withdrawal that we hate, that we'll avoid, the shaking, the anxiety, the insomnia, the diarrhea, all the things that we hate about the withdrawal process are manifestations of a body that's in survival. So the way you get around that is you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And the way to do that is with loving and nurturing the body, massage, slow, deep breathing, muscle relaxation, warm water, warm baths, mental strategies like gratitude and compassion, touch. All of these things activate the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, you want to treat the body, when a body's withdrawing from drugs, you want to treat it like a baby who's in distress. And I imagine you've had a baby, right? I didn't catch you, right? Sherry, you've had a baby, right? When your baby's crying, you know intuitively what to do. You love the baby, you pet the baby, you speak kindly to the baby, you do all these loving things to the baby. That's how you have to treat a body that is withdrawing from drugs. Now, there's some ways that you can sort of soften the blow from narcotics and also from alcohol withdrawal. And that's with things like kratom. I don't know if you know what that is. Kratom is an herb that you can buy that has a kind of relaxing effect. There are herbal teas that have a relaxing effect. Chamomile tea has a relaxing effect. Things that have a relaxing effect that are, they're almost like drugs, but they're botanical and they're kinder. That's a little trickier because you don't want to start to become dependent on those, but at least they're easier on the body if you're dependent on those than an opiate or a narcotic is. So it's really important that you understand the relationship between the stress and emergency nervous system and the relaxation nervous system when you're going through the withdrawal process, and understand that withdrawal to the body is a major emergency. And the way you soften the blow of all the symptoms of this major emergency is to activate the relaxation nervous system, which are all strategies that we should all be doing anyway. We should all, if you have insomnia, again, you probably have a sympathetic nervous system problem. If you have high blood pressure, you have a sympathetic nervous system problem. If you're dealing with chronic pain or accelerated aging, you have a sympathetic nervous, SNS, sympathetic nervous system problem. And a withdrawal from an opiate is like a dramatic example. It's like an extreme example of a sympathetic nervous system problem. Activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, there's also nutrients that have a relaxing effect on the body. One is called GABA, G-A-B-A. Another is tryptophan. Another is glycine. There's a supplement called 5-HTP. There's another one called theanine, T-H-E-A-N-I-N-E. And all of these can be used to kind of relax the body. And you can use all those supplements for folks who are dealing with insomnia or anxiety issues too.
Wow. Sherry Ann, did you have a question?
That help?
Anything additional for that? And that's a great question, Sherry Ann. Thank you so much for coming on with that.
Yes, it was specifically for a drug called clonazepam that was prescribed to my husband for restless leg, and he's been on it a long time. And when we try to pull off, he goes into that very situation you described.
He thinks it's dying, basically. So he goes through this massive sympathetic nervous system activation that feels awful, and he'll say, "Give me that clonazepam back," because nobody wants to go through that. But clonazepam, how does clonazepam work? It relaxes the body. So instead of relaxing the body with clonazepam, do all these other things that we just talked about to relax the body. Okay? Give him a foot rub. Give him a back rub. Pet his head. Touch him lightly. All of those. He'll love it.
All right, fantastic. Now, Jill has a question that is related to this as well. So Jill, go ahead.
Yes. My question is another medication. It's not an opioid, it's Tylenol. So if you have somebody who's been taking Tylenol around the clock for 15 years to manage arthritis pain because they are on a blood thinner and couldn't take anything else, and that you're somewhat concerned that they may be at a toxic level at this point, despite what doctors say, when it's discussed with the doctor, it's no, it's safe, it's fine, it's not toxic. But we're dealing with edema, in the legs and some edema in the face. I can't hear you, so I guess I'll have to mute.
Problems, you know.
What's that?
We're not solving the problem.
Right.
His body is breaking down, so it feels painful. So how about if we stop the body from breaking down? And how about if we start building the body up? How about if we eliminate the causes of the breakdown, mostly toxicity and sugar, and probably elevated cortisol, stress hormone? And so why don't we stop it on that angle? And then why don't we start building it up? It just doesn't make sense to me. That
This is my mom, and she takes a lot of products, and her results, in my opinion, are limited by the amount of sugar that she eats and the fact that I can't get her consistently to be gluten-free. She has been gluten-free off and on, but when your siblings are not on board, it's a bit of a battle. You know, like, you're 91, you should be able to enjoy your life. And I look at it and I'm like, well, no. Here, you know, what's the quality of your life? You know, you need to. So anyways, I'm kind of wanting to push to get off the Tylenol, and I don't know whether it will be addictive after 15 years, you know.
It's not addictive in the sense that clonazepam, or, and by the way, clonazepam is technically a benzodiazepine. It's not an opioid, just for clarification's sake. But Tylenol, there's worse things than Tylenol, and Tylenol is not addictive on its own. However, the pain relief is addictive. She doesn't want to go back to pain, and Tylenol has as an analgesic, has anti-pain effects. If she's using a small amount of Tylenol, there are worse things. Than if she's 91, you know, she's 91. So
she takes two extra strength 3 times a day. She used to take it 4 times a day, and then I made her back off on that.
A lot, you know, she's taking a lot, and that could be a problem. But the poor woman, she has an opportunity to build herself up. She has an opportunity to add years to her life. She has an opportunity. She's 91. God bless her. That's amazing. She has an opportunity to live another 10 or 15 years. If she's 91 and she's doing Tylenol, nobody's correcting her arthritis. If we could figure out a way to just convince her, and I don't ever try to convince anybody, by the way, and it's especially harder when it's your mother, obviously.
I know, but it's really hard to watch somebody suffer when you know that it's what they're putting in their mouth.
Especially it's your mother, you know, I can understand that. But again, one of the hardest things we have to do as human beings is watch our loved ones make bad decisions. And I imagine children, and you probably had to watch your children make bad decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? If you try to tell your children, they would do the opposite. So you can't tell that, right? And that's what we all have to do is watch our mothers and our fathers and our kids and our loved ones make bad decisions. And but everybody gets to make their own decisions, and we have to watch it. And it's not fair for us to say, I don't want to have, you're making me suffer, you know? It's not fair for us to say, you have to change your life because I'm suffering.
Yeah. So the Tylenol doesn't concern you with regards to the edema, just really more work on the diet, and so she can absorb her supplements.
It doesn't concern me, but it's definitely related to the edema. Tylenol, it can be toxic to the kidneys.
And that's what I'm afraid is going on.
Could easily be happening, but there's probably other things. If she's eating the way you're describing, she probably has other things going on too.
But she's putting her applesauce with every meal, and that's when she takes her supplements, right? And so I'm like, Mom, can we have it like 2 hours later? Like, why do you have to take it when you take your supplements?
You're gonna have to. That's your battle.
Yeah.
That's not her battle. That's your battle.
Okay. I hear you. Thank you. Thanks so much for all your great information.
All right, Rebecca.
All right, Ben. I can't believe our time is up again.
Thank you. And thank you, Rebecca, for doing this. I appreciate it. Tell everybody how they can join our team.
Well, so the majority of the people here are distributors already. Some of them on our team, some of them. And the thing I like about it, Ben, is longevity as a whole. We work as a team. We work as a community. So, and that's why we provide this resource that people can then share. And if you're here as a guest, or if you're watching this video, get back with the person that shared this video with you, because they do care. They took the time to share this information with you for a purpose. So get back with them, thank them for sharing the information with you. And if you are part of our critical health newsletter, and you've never spoken to anybody about longevity, you've never tried the products, just simply do a reply back to that email that you received about this program, and we will have a certified holistic health coach get back with you. How's that, Ben?
Awesome, Rebecca, and thank you so much for doing what you're doing. You're an incredible asset to longevity, and I just love how you take the ball and run with it. It's such a rare and impressive quality.
Well, I love the fact that I believe enough in something that I do it.
Thank
And
you.
many times that's what keeps us from doing it, is either our belief or somebody else's belief that's been instilled in us is creating that wall. Well, I say, let's get rid of what other people think, find what our passion is, and run with it. And I have one more question for you. Pamela would like to know, when are you going to write a book?
I've got about a third of one written.
Okay, in the process.
No time to write it, but I have about a third of one written. I've been writing.
Awesome. Fantastic. I can't wait. I know the rest of us can't either. We've got some thumbs up coming from the gallery. Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, once again, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us here on Q&A with Pharmacist Ben and Becca. We truly hope that you can use this video, this resource, to reach out and share information with people. I think it's one of our best ones yet, with what we have gained the knowledge in today. So everyone, be empowered for yourself and share with others. We'll talk to you later. Bye for now. And thank you to my co-hosts, Ruth Ellen Sanchez and Dr. Judy Reynolds, for helping me keep things going in this Zoom. You guys are awesome. Bye for now, everybody.